Most new producers and beat makers are intimidated by the thought of mixing and mastering your own beats. I was too, but you can quickly master this with a very simple 4-step process that I use to mix and master everything that I produce. This process is introductory and intended to steer new producers or producers that are new to mixing and mastering in the right direction. As I release more videos on this topic, I'll cover more advanced techniques to help you tighten up your mixes even more. I made this beat for my Scalar 2 tutorial, and I'll be mixing and mastering it here to show you how simple it is to start learning. My 4-step process for getting a solid mix and master starts with organize and importance. It's extremely important to have your project organized and all of your tracks named properly. If not, you're going to waste time either looking for layers or even making changes on the wrong ones. It also helps to organize all of your layers into groups or buses. This keeps all of the similar elements grouped together. You can see here that I have all of my groups labeled and color-coded. Once you've gone through your project and organized everything, it's time to figure out what the most important elements are. If you prioritize something that's better suited in the background, it may throw off your entire mix. Let's play a little bit of this beat and see what the most important parts are. So far from listening, we can tell that this is a hip-hop or trap-style beat. The main driving force of hip-hop and trap is definitely the drums, so that's going to be the number one. Next, I'll be focusing on the musical elements like the guitar, strings, and piano. The least important parts will be the sound effects. The second step in my 4-step process is levels. Once you've decided which elements are the most important, you can start with adjusting levels. In this case, and in many cases with modern music, I've chosen the drums. I like to start with my kick drum around -12 dB and build the track around that. I like to put a gain meter on the master to read my levels. So now I'm going to solo my kick and watch the meters. After checking the meter, we can see that it's pretty close. So now I'm going to bring in the other main drum elements except the 808s and set the levels. One thing that immediately sticks out to me is that the hi-hats are a little loud and piercing, so I'm going to play this back and turn them down a tiny bit. I think that sounds pretty good. I also turned the snare down 2 decibels to kind of tighten everything up. Now the only backing drum element is this percussion loop, so I'm going to bring that in and see if we need to make any adjustments. You can tell immediately that that's way louder than the other drum elements, so I'm going to bring that down. I think -6 sounds pretty good. I usually like how my 808 sounds around -6 decibels below the kick, but make sure to take your time and listen to how it sounds in relation to the kick and dial it in based on the overall sound, not a decibel rating. A trick to mix basically any component is to bring it all the way down and slowly bring the volume back in until it's at a level that matches what you're looking for. I think that sounds pretty good. I'm going to check that in relation to my meter. As you saw, the 808 was hitting around -15. In relation to the kick, that's actually 3 decibels. So that's why I say to use your ears and find a level that's suitable for what you're looking for compared to just picking numbers. Now our whole drum section should sound like this. Now I'll continue this process with the rest of the elements in order from most important to least. So now you can hear that the melodic instruments are drowning out the drums. So I'm going to start by bringing this whole group down to a more moderate level. I think -5 sounds pretty good. One thing I like to do is just solo my instruments and give them all a listen and see what can be adjusted. I think I want to bring the guitar down a tiny bit. And then also the piano. And that's a little better. One thing I like to do is to mute an element and see if it drowns out the mix or if it adds something. So once I brought the strings back in, you can hear that the mix sounded more full. I think that group sounds pretty good, so I'm going to move on to my loops. This is just a vocal loop. I think -5 sounds pretty good. Now the final part in this mix is the sound effects. We can see that I have all of my sound effects set to -20 as it sits. I want them all a little bit quieter, so I'll just grab the whole group and bring everything down a few decibels. Maybe a little more. I think that's pretty good. Now that we have our levels set, we'll move on to step 3 of this process, which is EQ and panning. I like to go through each track and cut out any unnecessary or harsh frequencies. This might include lows under 40 Hz, bright highs over 10 kHz, and anything else that might not be needed. Sometimes I'll also boost certain frequencies if a sound is lacking. I'll show you this process on the first few instruments and then I'll continue to do the rest. So let's solo the guitar and give it a listen. So we can see that the majority of the sound is above 500 Hz, but there is some audible frequencies below that, so we'll cut all of that out. Now you can hear it tightens up the guitar a little bit. I think the highs are okay, so we'll move on. Our choir sounds like this. As you can see, it's the same. So we'll bring up this low filter frequency and cut a lot of the bottom end out. And you can see it doesn't change the integrity of the sound. I'll do the final with the staccato strings. Now I've adjusted the EQ on every layer. I'm going to go through and adjust some panning. This is a little more quick, but I'll give you a breakdown. There's two reasons you're going to want to adjust panning. The first is that one instrument may be off-centered, like these hi-hats. You can see on the meters and in your ears that it's favoring the right side. I don't like how that sounds, so I'm going to correct that by dragging the slider. So now I've offset that 15 degrees to the left, and you can see that it's matching centered. And now when I play the drum group, it sounds more cohesive. The next reason for using panning is to space out your elements. I especially like to do this with the sound effects. As you can see here, I have 5 different elements. I usually have 2 risers and 2 downlifters, so I like to separate them left and right. So the first riser, I'll go -25, which will be to the left. And then the second one, I'll go +25 to the right. And then I'll do the same for the other 2. So now if I solo that, it'll sound more spaced out. I think I'm going to do the same for some of our melodic instruments. Our guitar and our piano somewhat occupy the same area, so I'm going to slightly pan these in opposite directions. And let's listen to that back in context. That's good. And I'm going to do the same with our vocal loops. These are more supporting elements, so I'm going to pan these a little wider. And let's listen to that. I think that sounds a lot better. The final step in this 4-step process is the master volume. In this video, we'll do a down and dirty master that only adjusts the final track volume. This is typically the majority of what you want to do on the master anyway. I'll be using the ozone maximizer as my limiter, but you can do the same with your stock limiter. I like to do this very simply and start by setting my ceiling. The ceiling of your limiter is where the limiter stops all the peaks and doesn't allow anything to pass. I usually like to set mine at -1 dB. Now you'll need to decide how loud you want your mix. If you're uploading to streaming platforms, most of them recommend a loudness level of -14 LUFS. There happens to be a lot of controversy around this topic, but I always like to stick to what the platforms recommend. If you're doing production music for things like TV, film, or radio, -10 LUFS is a great target. For an instrumental that'll feature an artist or be featured on a beat store, I suggest leaving 3 to 6 decibels of headroom. And finally, if you want the most loudness you can get, crank it up as loud as you can before getting any distortion. Let's set the levels here for streaming. Just like mixing, when mastering or setting the loudness, you're going to want to work from the loudest part of your track. I looped my final chorus because it's the loudest part, and opened up my loudness meter. To start adding loudness to your track, pull down the threshold and you'll hear the volume going up. You can see that it was playing at right around -14 LUFS. Although that's the case, I'm going to pull it down a little more to around -12 or -10. The reason for that is because LUFS measures the loudness of the whole track. So if our verse is quieter, the LUFS rating is going to go down. So somewhere between -10 and -12 in the quiet spots should help average that out. If you want, play the whole track through, then check your levels and make adjustments after. This way is a little more time consuming, but much more accurate. Thank you for checking out this video. I hope it was helpful and it pushed you in the right direction to help you mix and master your beats. Please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more mixing and mastering tips. I'm DJ Contour, and I'll see you in the next video.